Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Black Forest coming to you with another market analysis video. This morning, we're going to be looking at AUDUSD. Okay, before we get started to break down this currency pair, we have to say that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not for financial advice. But we all know why you guys are here. You want to find good, credible Forex content to help improve your ability as a trader and to help put some extra money in your pocket. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and break down this currency pair. Okay, now before we get to talking about what's physically going on the chart, one thing we always like to do here is discuss what's happening with each currency. Now, this is a little tricky situation with the AUD because there's been absolutely no economic news scheduled for the AUD for this whole week. And And basically, with that being said, we're going off the economic news that has happened last week with the with the AUD, which has been positive. So we got to just go off. Basically, when you're dealing with fundamentals and economic news, you go off the last time a news event happened. And the last news event for the AUD was literally last week. Okay, a little strange, but hey, that's just how the game goes. Right. So for the most part, we've been going up in an uptrend. Crazy looking uptrend has been it is because there's been a lot of crazy things happening over the last 6 8 trading weeks. But um, but we have a situation in which we are going up, and basically, oh, sorry, I have to discuss what's happening with the USD. My apologies. With the USD, we have a situation like this. The Fed increased the interest rate from 25% to 50%, and it's also putting other economic policies and measures in place to combat the interest rate. Okay, so with that being said, we have to see how these things are going to actually play out. If the Feds combat the interest rate, if the Feds economic policies and measures in place increase, along with the increase in the interest rate, does combat the inflation very effectively, very aggressively, and very expeditiously, then we will have an increase in the US dollar strength very rapidly. But if the economic policies and measures in place and the increase in interest rate don't combat the inflation aggressively and effectively and expeditiously, then we will see the US dollar become much weaker than what it is and actually start to drop more so in value, and we will be in a situation in which we will start to be looking at the beginning signs of a recession. But we did get some very positive news of with the economic news for the USD as of 8:30. We do have some news coming out at, I believe it's 9:45, about the PMIs. Let's see how that's going to actually affect the charts. But for right now, it's looking like the USD is starting to begin the beginning stages of picking up strength. Okay. So now with that, we got that out the way. Now let's get to what's happening on the charts. Okay. So we started out the week here when we started to go down some. And then we had a pickup towards the long position, just due to a lot of uncertainty that was surrounding the USD. But as the Fed started talking about how they're going to start really putting their pedal to the metal in combating inflation, what we started to see actually is price started to stall out here. Now, as I said in previous videos, you do not want to buy things when it started to get to highs it hasn't been at in a long time. And the last time price was even remotely this high, or even at the beginning of the week this high, was around October. Okay, so you don't want to be in a situation where you're at highs that it hasn't been to, or all-time highs, or highs it hasn't been to in a long time. You want to just wait for the reversal to happen, because the reversal is always going to happen once you start to get in these situations. Okay, so if you did buy it here, luckily it did go into your favor, but this has to do more so with luck than anything else, because price could have easily dropped from here. Okay, me, I kind of just sat on it. Didn't really do a lot of trading with this currency pair this trading week, because I didn't want to be in a situation where I sent out. I don't want to be in a situation where well, excuse me, I did send out some trades against it this week, up to 5 take profits. Only 2 to take profits hit. Other 3 did not hit because price started to pick back up. But after I saw that, I kind of chilled on trading this pair for the rest of this week because I didn't really like to see what was going on, because I didn't want to be in a situation where I said, oh, okay, since it's not selling, it's buying, then it gets to here, then it decides to drop. So we don't know at what exact point this is going to drop, but it's going to drop and it's going to be aggressive, okay? And so going into next week, we are going to have, okay, so going into next week, we are going to have some Aussie news. So if the USD starts to continue to pick up strength, and then the Australian dollar starts to report weak news, starts to report negative news, which will in turn make the currency weak, then we will start to see aggressive drops in price. Okay, so we may drop as far as here, here, or even here before we start to see it going back into the long position, or we may start to drop to this area here. If we start to drop to this area here and the fundamentals start to change, in which the pedal to the metal type of position the Fed is taking to combat the American inflation, and then we start to see that the Aussie starts to become much weaker due to poor economic news comes out, then we're looking at a situation where retracement moved from from aggressive retracement to price turnover. Okay. So how far can price drop? We can drop here, as far as here, or even here before we start to see price turnover. And even with that, we have to make sure that the fundamentals is in our favor before it continues with the long position. Okay. But when this drop happens, it could be a sign of price turnover, especially if the USD starts to pick up a lot of strength due to all the economic policies and measures that's going in place to combat inflation. Okay. So, but just because it's looking like it's supposed to be a drop, and you want to wait for at least a break in this market structure here before you want to consider putting in your short position, just to be towards the safe side, okay? And then ride it out to possibly this market structure here. And then if it continues to go down, you can ride it out to here, paying attention at this point, and this point, and this point, and this point, to see what is going on with the fundamentals, to see could it continue going in its down direction. Okay. Now, is there a possibility it can continue to bump up? Yeah, it can go as high as possibly here before it can go down. But if it was going to continue to shoot up, it'll already have done so. And being at the fact that we got some very positive news around 8:30, and looking like we're going to have more positive news in the next around 9:45, it's a good possibility we're going to be continuing on our downtrend short term trajectory. Okay. I hope that information was helpful for you guys. Happy trading.